We have talked a lot about the 2022 Seahawks draft class, and for good reason. It's been a key part of this rebuild. It's the core of the Seahawks team right now, and in various forms or another, I'm sure all of our shows have kind of broken down, all right, what would you do with this certain guy? A Riq Woolen or an Abe Lucas? Would you sign them? Would you wait? But I wanted to put it in easy, digestible form because who doesn't like things that are broken down in simple, easy to look at or easy to break down terms? So why not? I thought, all right, let's look at this 2022 draft class. All their contracts are coming up and decide right now, are the Seahawks going to sign them now, later, or never? And of course, because Charles Cross is that first-round pick, and his fifth-year option was picked up. He's not going to be part of this. We'll start with that first pick after Charles Cross. That was Boye Mafe, the first of the two second-round picks. And Boye Mafe, I think, for Boye, it's a pretty easy one. Boye Mafe, for me, now. You have to re-sign Boye Mafe now, so as soon as possible. Ideally, it's before the season starts. Not a lot of guys that like to kind of drag this out. Some do. Some drag out a contract decision when the season begins or as the season's going on. There really is no set deadline. Sometimes there's a self-imposed deadline, but a lot of front offices and a lot of players, they just don't like the distractions, and you can understand why. When you get into the grind of the season and the week-to-week of what an NFL season entails, you don't really want to deal with a contract situation. So Boye Mafe now, ideally in the next 3 weeks to a month, for a number of reasons, but primarily because there's not a lot of depth at edge rusher. If you look at what the Seahawks have at edge rusher, you have Uchenna Nwosu, who unfortunately, he just hasn't been healthy. He is a key guy on this defense when healthy. He's a guy you pencil in as a starter. He has been a big impact when he's there, but he hasn't been there. The health is just not there for Uchenna Nwosu. So what's the edge rusher situation look like? You have Uchenna, who, by the way, his contract is up in 2026, so he only has 2 years left, and you just really don't know what you're going to get. And your other edge rusher right now, outside of Boye Mafe, DeMarcus Lawrence. Could be good. We don't know. First year coming up for Lawrence, but he's 33. The mileage is there. Are you going to commit to a year in, year out situation with DeMarcus Lawrence as your primary guy on the other side? And even if he is, who's the opposite of him? Right now, it is Boye Mafe. So because of how important Boye Mafe factors to be on this team this year and then moving forward, you can't run the risk of letting him get to free agency, of letting him get to the end of this year even, where he has maximum value and can really try to boost up his negotiating power because he means a lot to the Seahawks. He's going to have a huge presence on the open market. Right now, you look at some of the average salaries, the 10th highest salary for an edge rusher, Bryce Huff of the 49ers, $17 million. Alex Highsmith right around there as well, $17 million. So a comparable range. You're probably paying Boye Mafe around $15 to $17 million a year, but if he hits the open market, that number gets much higher. So who knows what it could escalate to. I think for me, more important than anything, Boye Mafe is a now. Sign immediately, as soon as possible. Sign him to a long-term extension for this Seahawks team. As we move down the second round, you get to that next pick, Ken Walker. This is tough to say, but for me, Ken Walker, never. It's tough to say it. It hurts. He's shown flashes of what he can do, especially in that 2022 rookie season. But Walker's just become a little too unreliable. And for a running back, unfortunately, if you're not available, there's not a lot of track record to show that, hey, guys will get more healthy and more durable as their careers go along. So for Ken Walker to only have played 12 games last year, to see how Zach Charbonnet has kind of emerged as a guy who is almost the same as Walker, just in terms of pure production and what you can get out of him, and it is just the brutal, cruel nature of this sport to boil guys down to their pure production on the field. This is to say nothing of Ken Walker as a person, but running backs are replaceable. We know that. It's a cruel world out there. Running backs are so thoroughly replaceable. So if it comes down to, hey, will Ken Walker sign a long-term extension? I would say for the Seahawks, that's a never. You let him walk. You see what happens in free agency. Can we put caveats here? I will. It's my game. It's my rules here. So the one caveat would be, all right, if he signs a 1-year deal and you bring him back, that's not going to factor into these long-term extensions because we're talking about the context of team building and who might be here for the foreseeable future. But like Rashad Penny did in 2022, they brought him back for that 1-year deal. It didn't really work out. It doesn't cost you much, though. So if it gets to the end of the season and Ken Walker, he hits free agency, doesn't have a lot of landing spots, and Seahawks bring him back, all right, 1-year deal works. But for me, when it comes down to, do you sign this guy to a long-term deal? That's a never for me and Ken Walker. All right, let's move down to the third round. Abe Lucas. Fascinating situation here with Abe Lucas, who, when healthy, can be a cornerstone right tackle, a guy that you could pair alongside Charles Cross, and that's what you want out of an offensive line, a situation where you have those outsides plugged in, you don't have to worry about your tackles, and you can build from the interior outward. The problem with Abe Lucas, you just don't really know about the availability. So we get to Abe Lucas, and I'm going to qualify this as a later. Maybe lean a little bit towards now, and if the Seahawks do end up signing him to an extension now within the next few weeks or before the season begins, I think that's a great sign. It means that they are thoroughly confident in his health moving forward, but because of that, because he has had that knee issue, did miss a big chunk of the season last year, Abe Lucas doesn't feel like a guy that's going to get a lot of external interest as much as the Seahawks have love and praise for him. So it feels like you can wait on Abe Lucas, let him play it out. Hey, if he plays like he did at the end of last year, where when he came back, he played in those 7 games before he did sit out the finale. That was an ab issue, though. It wasn't knee-related. So in those 7 games that he returned, 70% of the snaps in his first game back, then 100% of the snaps in the 6 after that. Abe Lucas is going to be a key part of this team. If you want to lock him up to a multi-year extension, have him play out this season, see how it pays out. If he can play every single down, if he is there, the majority of the games, nicks and bruises happen, but if Abe Lucas is healthy and good to go, this is a guy you sign to a long-term extension, especially because the right tackle market seems down. Now, left tackles, they command a premium because you're protecting the quarterback's blind side, but for one reason or another, that right tackle market it's not exploding like the left tackle market is. So I think you can get Abe Lucas at a pretty reasonable price if he does come through and has a pretty good season after this. Abe Lucas, for me, is a later. As we continue down the list, you get to Coby Bryant. Coby Bryant's a fascinating case study because of what he did last year. Coby Bryant, for me, is a later. I would wait and see on Coby Bryant. Have him play out this year. If he has a good season, if you think he's going to be as valuable as he was in 2024, sign him to an extension. And it gets back to the internal and external perception. I'm not sure what that market looks like for Coby Bryant outside of Seattle. He's a good player. He has had a very small sample size of productivity, and last year was a career year for him. So if you're the Seahawks, you perhaps run that risk of saying, look, Coby Bryant has another good year. What's the safety market really look like? It's depressed out there. It's not a position group that has exploded like an interior guard or a tackle or even an edge rusher. So Coby Bryant feels like a guy that you can wait and see, especially with this Seahawks team where what's his role moving forward? He had a huge role in this team last year, but with Nick Emmanwori, if this is a guy that they really want to work in outside of just the big nickel situations, if you want him on the field, at some point, you think Emmanwori is going to take over at one of those safety spots. What does that do for Coby Bryant? I don't know, but if his value is something where you don't feel like you have to lock him up immediately, that's a later for me. I will add, much smarter Seahawks minds than I have kind of weighed in on the fact that perhaps Coby Bryant would be an easier deal to get done, so you just kind of sign him and get it out of the way. ESPN's Brady Henderson has mentioned that a few times on our station. If that's the case, and if Coby Bryant's an easy negotiation and he wants to be here and the Seahawks want him here, that could be a now, something that they get done in this offseason. I think you can run the risk of waiting and say, all right, Coby Bryant playing out this final season, that's a later. Kind of save this guy for the end, but as we're going in order of the draft picks, it makes sense that the most complicated one is the enigma, Riq Woolen. Riq Woolen, this might be a little confusing, but Riq Woolen, in my opinion, is a now. You sign Riq Woolen as soon as possible, and it bodes for a number of reasons where Riq Woolen's potential, I think, is off the charts, and the exact opposite of the internal and external perception where Coby Bryant, I don't know if the rest of the league knows what they have. Riq Woolen, that pure raw ability, people have seen that. Pro Bowl in his rookie season, nearly won the All-Rookie Award there. Sauce Gardner beat him out. But Woolen has those intangibles that teams love, that they just jump off the charts. So Riq Woolen, for me, because of the lack of depth at the cornerback position and because he's what he's capable of, that's a now. You sign as soon as possible. I think I'm going to draw on the Shaq Griffin parallel. And not just because he's back, but because his career played out in similar fashion to what it looks like Riq Woolen could do. So Shaq Griffin, started many games as a rookie here, came in right away, started as a rookie, had a Pro Bowl season. When it came time to hit free agency, the Seahawks let him walk, and the Jags opened up the bank. Jaguars paid him at the time what was the 7th highest salary for a cornerback, $14.8 million. Now, that seems like a bargain, but at the time, just a few years ago, Shaq Griffin was made the 7th highest paid cornerback at his position. We know what Riq can do. Cornerbacks get paid well in free agency, so if the Seahawks run the risk of letting Riq Woolen have a good year and then hit free agency, it's going to be a bidding war. I mean, the average for cornerbacks right now is about $18 million a year. If you sign him now, can you get him for cheaper? Perhaps. Maybe you do get that, not to say team-friendly discount, but if you go to free agency and you get in a bidding war, are you going to open up the purse strings for a Riq Woolen where you're going to have key decisions looming after that when it comes to Devin Witherspoon, when it comes to Charles Cross still after that fifth-year option's up, and then, JSN on offense. So not to mention all those questions on defense. I think for all of that, Riq Woolen is a now, even though there might be a risk based on his past couple of seasons. The potential's off the charts, the intangibles, what he brings to this team, and the fact that there's not really a cornerback behind him. We know the Seahawks don't want to move Devin Witherspoon to the outside permanently. You're looking at Riq Woolen and Josh Jobe, and that's it. You got to bring Riq Woolen back. So that was my look at the 2022 Seahawks draft class. Started with Boye Mafe. Boye Mafe is a now. Went down that second-round pick. Ken Walker, I did put him at a never just because of the fickle nature of the running back position. Abe Lucas, the third-round pick in 2022, I have him as a later, and then continuing to the key guys that are still on this roster from 2022. Coby Bryant, also a later, and then Riq Woolen was a now. Sign him before the season begins or as soon as possible.